Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode, the final episode of 2024 for In the Prog Seat. It's our holiday show. It's Tuesday night, and we're going to talk about our three favorite prog albums of 2024. Let me introduce the crew. Ken Golden is here. George Lemie is here. Eric Porter's here. Our center square is Chad Hutchinson wearing his lovely Santa hat. Stephen Reed is here. Anthony Ferrara is here. Chris Canzaneri is here. And Luis Nasser is here. There's nine of us today. Nine little Indians getting ready for Christmas. Here we all are. I would say, I've asked everybody to pick their three favorite prog related, what we normally would talk about on this particular show on the channel. And everybody's got their three favorites. And we're going to go all the way down to Mexico because that's where he is right now. Luis is going to kickstart us off today with his three prog albums of the year.
All right. Well, greetings to everybody. It's been a very good year for many reasons. I have not heard as much music as I normally would have in other years for a variety of reasons, but it was easy for me to choose my three, and then maybe we can do some honorable mentions. Maybe I will leave it up to the boss. So my number three is Blood Incantation, Absolute Anywhere. That is a record that when I first heard it, I didn't really understand it, but it was very appealing. Very, very, very appealing. And I don't have a particularly favorite track, but I decided that I just had to work at it, and it became a favorite. And I had to buy it, and I love that record. It's a mixture of everything. It's like psychedelic death metal with a little prog. It's really cool. I love that album. That was an easy pick for me. My second one would have to be The Last Human Being by Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum. That is a record which, from my perspective, has no weak tracks. SPQR is an example, what I call the kid brother to Ambugaton. People who know Sleepy Time know what I'm talking about. It's a phenomenal album. I was lucky enough to see them play live in Chicago. And to me, it's a monstrous record that I love. And my favorite one, the one that I have enjoyed the most, would have to be the new Opeth, Last Will and Testament. It's a record that, I don't know, it seems like Michael Eckerfeld, there you go, masterpiece.
I got
it's
you
like he has some kind of extra restlessness, and it just has a lot of ideas, it has a lot of parts, and a lot of textures, and I love it. It's an absolutely incredible accomplishment. I love the fact that Ian Anderson makes an appearance, and as was to be expected, kills it on the flute, and he also does a little bit of spoken word in his very regal English way. I don't know. I just think it's an incredible record. People who have never heard it should really give it a shot. I know, and there are some people among us who feel like the growls are a deal breaker, blah blah fucking blah. However, I will say, listen to it. Stop being angry at the fucking growls and just listen to it, because it is really a monumental album. And
I tried.
the growls will there you go. Now Santa Claus is red, pissed off and red.
Just like Cookie Monster was.
Yeah. Anyway, I just love that record. I cannot say enough good things about it. And I would like to encourage everybody who hasn't heard it to not be discouraged by the growls, because my philosophy on growls is, if you like guitar and you like distortion on guitar and you like vocals, the growls are kind of a form of distortion. It may sound obnoxious, But if you talk to a jazz purist, that's what they say about distortion pedals. So it's really very similar, and I love it. So these are my three.
Well said. All right. Let's move over to cans.
All right. I did not purchase a lot of new music this year. I purchased an absolute shitload of music, and almost none of it was new. But I was able to acquire enough stuff to participate in this show. So you're going to get the top of what I own, and I think it's all pretty good. So, if you don't and you disagree, whatever, go fuck yourself. I didn't say that. Anyway, my number three is Where Ideal and Denial Collide by Oddleaf. This is a new band. I believe they're from France. I like everything about this album. It's very big. There's big ideas, there's big music, beautiful artwork, a lot of really killer flute playing, which I'm going to be saying about every fucking album I mentioned today. But this is a really cool album, great first effort. Looking very forward to seeing what else these people bring to the table next.
I think it's their second.
No, it's their first.
There's another Oddleaf album. The thing is that they have a new keyboard player who
No,
wrote all this music. This is the first?
yeah, and this is our band.
Oh, because there was another one.
Bruno?
Well, I agree with everything Ken said. I mean, and that girl who wrote all the music is
Karina.
young and amazing. So yeah,
Big future. So number two, Jupiter Fungus, Garden Electric. Very old school organ playing on here. Really good flute playing, which I enjoyed quite a bit. This is, I forget who I read who said this, but another reviewer had said, like, there's so much old school organ stuff on here and old school flute that Ken Golden hadn't felt this good since he qualified for Medicaid or something like that, or Medicare.
Glenn said that.
Yeah.
Glenn said that.
But, I agree. This is, a throwback to a happier time for all of us. So I believe this is another first effort, and can't wait to see what they do next. And number three, I'm going with Luis, Last Will and Testament from Opeth. Some really great flute playing on this album from Ian Anderson, the guy that everybody loves, everybody's favorite flautist. The dirty growl vocals don't knot up my panties like they do for other people. They were rumored, to be coming back on this album, and people really, I think, thought that it would sort of be like the spiritual successor to Watershed, the last album where he really got into the dirty singing and stuff like that. And I don't think it is. I think it's more a progression from, the Heritage days on. It's still proggy, and it's still heavy, and the growls, I think, fit perfectly. I think he sings clean as much as he growls, but killer album. It's worth it to check it out at least once. If it's not for you, cool. I'm not, gonna like get as far as Luis and say, there's something wrong with you if you don't like it. But if you don't like it, there's probably something wrong with you. Probably. But
Yeah, you hear that, Luis? If you don't like Elias Sunhill, there is something wrong with you.
well, as we may be talking about that later.
Ken, would I like that odd leaf?
Yes, very much.
Do you have any in stock?
I just sold out of it. I'm going to be getting more in the new year.
All right, let me know. I'll order one for you from you.
You'll like it.
yeah, you won't regret it.
You're gonna love that, Anthony. That is a great album. It really is.
Cool artwork too. How about Christian?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really good artwork. Cool, good picks.
Yeah.
All right, Anthony.
Nice package. That's what she said.
Pick up, Anthony. Your turn.
Oh, am I up?
Yeah, you're up. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, so my number three. I never know how to say these guys, but this is their sophomore album featuring Nicholas DeSalvo, frontman from Elder, playing the drums. What is it? How do you pronounce it?
Vita.
Vita with their sophomore album, Oasis.
I think.
Oasis, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
German
So it's their
pronunciation for
their
Oasis.
sophomore album. I thought their first one was more geared toward like Floydy, kind of like krautrock songs. This is kind of like a combination of kind of like Floyd inspired, some krautrock inspired, but a lot of kind of like strings and just beautiful passages and atmospheric, and a lot of these titles I can't pronounce. But the first track, Wiesenart, is fantastic. The second one, Time Will Paint a Picture, another picture, is probably my favorite on there. I know Ken and I had discussed we like that track a lot. So Vita Oasis featuring Nicholas DeSalvo on drums from Elder is my number three. Number two, I saw the tour. One of the worst albums of all, one of the worst cover arts of all time. But man, oh man, John Anderson and the band Geeks, true hot band behind him. Chris Clark on keys, fantastic record. When I saw him live, he played True and he played Countless in Countries. Amazing live. What a comeback. This is better than any Yes record in the last 10 to 15 years. So this is going to be my number two. John Anderson and the Band Geeks with the album True. It's too bad because the live album coming out next year, the artwork is so much more cooler and so much more proggier. So, but John Anderson is going to be my number two. And my number one, featuring Nicholas DeSalvo from Elder again. This is his own project called Delving. All Past the Verge. Just an absolute gorgeous album. He plays all the instruments. Just amazing keyboard. Just the sound collages that he can come up with are just absolutely gorgeous. Sentinel, Omnipresence, Chain of Mind, New Meridian. The first four tracks will just blow you away. Just beautiful atmospheric sounds. Everything works perfectly. I can't wait for a sophomore record of this. So this is gonna be my number one. Delving, All Past the Verge, featuring Nicholas DeSalvo on everything on this album. This is his first album. Hopefully, he continues this project going forward. So those are my top three of 2024.
Cool. And just to let everybody know, Nick and I have been talking quite a bit. He's going to come on the channel to talk about both those records. We were supposed to do it this morning, but with what's been going on with me and the flu and whatnot, I had to postpone it. So probably like sometime in the new year. But
Did you tell him some of your buds really like the Delving?
yes, he knows. And you know what he told me? He said, "Congratulations, you are the only person on YouTube who has said the name Vita correctly." And I'm like, there you go. I mean, you look at it, you would never know, right? I don't even know how I figured it out, but whatever.
That's cool that you guys been talking though.
Yeah, no, he's cool, dude. I've been wanting to get him back on for a while. All right, let's go over to Scotland. Mr. Stephen Reed.
I just wanted to say that I've been watching Anthony on this show for I don't know how many years, and I never realized that hoodie was reversible. Do you know that? It's
Oh,
really
no.
nice yellow.
Well done.
He didn't realize it either. He didn't realize it either. He just put it on inside out.
No, it's another Steeler. It's another Steeler sweatshirt.
Hasn't been washed either.
Kidding everyone on that you've got two.
Yeah,
You've
it does
only got
wash
one.
because I do the laundry.
Really?
Right.
Wow.
My number three has already been mentioned. It is the Last Will and Testament from Opeth. I think in many ways, the Growls have kind of overshadowed the whole thing. I know that they built them up before the album was released. And I know it is a deal breaker for some people. And I'm okay with that. If you like what you like, you don't like what you don't like. But I really think it's a great album. I think the songwriting is really, really impressive. I prefer it in terms of songwriting to the last three or four albums. And I think that the Growls give the vocals a dynamic that for me personally is missing when Ackerfeld sings Just Clean. And it brings a different side to it. I like Ian Anderson's Scottish brogue that runs through it, not English, Scottish. Just throwing that in there.
I knew that was coming.
It's great because he's not there as a novelty. It would have been easy for him to turn up and kind of, play a little flute, do a little spoken word thing. He's a genuine highlight on the album. So it's utilising what you've got, I suppose. So yeah, really like it. I was a little worried that it was a kind of a bit of a gimmick to bring back the Growls. The Growls are great if you like them. There you go.
It's like having two singers. It's like having two singers in the band again, right? Almost.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, it just especially would have been a concept piece. It just brings a light and shade that I've missed from the music more than I realised I did. To be fair, I was okay without Growls forevermore, and they brought them back, and I went, I like the Growls, you know. But there you go. Some people don't. I get that. My number two is Caligula's Horse with Charcoal Grace. This is the sixth album, I think. Australian progressive metal, I suppose. It's technical, it's melodic. I think there's progressive rock in here. There are some kind of more modern elements. There's kind of a gent sort of style to some of the riffing. Same again, though. It's great songwriting. This is an album that's as comfortable kind of being calm and sedate as it is ripping your face off with some great riffs. But the solos are just phenomenal. Great vocals as well. They're beginning to get the recognition they deserve. They've kind of gone under the radar for a long time, Caligula's Horse. And it's really beginning to click for them now. Great cover art too. Really like this. So yeah, great album. Really good. And my number one came out back in May, and it's probably not really contested for my number one since. It is Insanium by Whom Gods Destroy. And really, in some ways, I kind of have Mike Portnoy to inadvertently thank for my album of the year, because this is what happened after Sons of Apollo. We're clearly going to be no more because Mike was concentrating fully on Dream Theater. So this is Bumblefoot, it's Ron Tal with Derek Sherinian, and the two of them are just fantastic on this. Really good. They've teamed up with Dino Jelisic on vocals, who's done a whole variety of things. He's got some nice solo albums. He's been with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. He's, if they still exist, part of Whitesnake, bizarrely enough, playing keyboards, but also in a sneaky way, a lot of vocals too when they play live. He's not as stupid as that old Coverdale. You've got Yaz Nomura from the Resonance Project on bass, and you've got Bruno Valverde from Angra on drums. It's a great lineup, and they don't waste it. But they also don't overplay it. This is not an album where it's all about, let's just run to the solos and let these guys just show what they can do. They get to show what they can do. They all can know when to take a step back as well. And the songs are fantastic. It's an album, again, it's all about the songs. Really like it. It's heavy, it's uncompromising, and yet it's nuanced and it's accessible. It's really good. Insanium by Whom Gods Destroy is my album of the year.
Nice. Good stuff. All right, Chad.
All right, sorry I had to mute because the dog was barking. But my number three is Jupiter. I'm going to lean this way. Jupiter Fungus, Greek duo. Can't really say their name, so I'm not going to try. Basically a keyboard and flute duo, and then they have some other studio musicians. Like Chris was saying, lots of organ, lots of great flute. There are some little hints of Jethro Tull in there. It's 4 long tracks, some sparse vocals, no big deal, Eric. I'd say the first 2 songs are straight, old school prog rock, and the second and third, they start to get a little riffy at times, which is pretty cool. So there's a little more, say, hard rock mixed in with the prog rock, which was, like I said, it was cool. I like the fact that they kind of got down and dirty in the last 2 tracks, but pretty solid album. And like Chris said, looking forward to more from them. My number 2, I agree with Anthony. The Delving album is great. It's a second full-length album by Nick DeSalvo from Elder. Some space rock meets some heavy psych. I'd say it's not as heavy as Elder, but there's more sound and keyboard exploration. It's great start to finish. The opening track, Sentinel, is just a killer. It's definitely my favorite on the album. Chain of Mind, Zodiac, just the whole thing's great, but those are 3 that stand out. And then my number 1, very late comer, came out in December, I believe, and that would be the new one from Kenso. And it's her first album in 10 years, and Old Warrior Shook the Sun. Great guitar, awesome organ and keys throughout the whole thing. There's even violin on a few tracks. They actually rehash a song from Kenso 2 called Hyoto and put some female vocals on it. I don't need it, but it's nice. It's pretty. Again, pronunciation of the tracks is not worth anybody's ears, but the opening 2 tracks are killer. And there was a short one called Rio no Mai, which was also pretty smoking. But the whole album is really solid. Very, very happy with it. So that's my top 3.
I can't wait to rewatch this episode to see George's very happily surprised response to your pick there for your number one. That was great. And I have not heard that yet. I can't. I got to get a copy of that. That's
It's good. It's
yeah.
good.
I'll have copies next week.
Okay,
Sweet.
cool. Yeah, set one aside for me. I definitely yeah. And we've got a lot of good praise for the Jupiter fungus, and I think it didn't make my top three because I just don't think I had enough time with it. It's like there's a lot of really strong releases this year, and I think like if that had come out a couple of months ago, it probably would. It made my top 50 easily, but it probably would have crept up a little bit higher. But yeah, really, really good. I can't wait to hear more from those guys. So cool. All right, Mr. Porter.
Good evening, gentlemen. Always fun to do this. Always look forward to this at the end of the year, going back and going through everything, review wise, just listening wise. But I have Mr. Golden to thank for this. And like Chad, this one snuck in at the last minute. But Ken's holding them hostage, so I don't have a physical copy yet. Band called PTF. Sorry if you can't see that. I love the violin. This has violin all over it. But they have their aggressive moments. It's very melodic as well. Really well written. And I hear
There's
violin.
your copy that's going to show up in your mailbox in a few
That'll
days.
be coming, right? So get your orders out.
Yeah, it'll be up
But
on the site any day.
terrific stuff. And I think Ken, you said you've got a couple of their previous releases as well. So I think they had 4 prior to this one, if I'm not mistaken. But great band. The songs are terrific. Now my number 2, I'm a little surprised because we raved about this band over the last few years. I know a few people thought this was kind of maybe a downer. I like kind of the little mellower turn for them. I'm going with Aurora Clara 4. I really like this, and actually, the more I listened to it, I got into this a lot. Again, we've talked about flute tonight. This is another one that features a ton of flute on it. But I think this band's terrific. I've liked everything they've released, and I know we talked about this when it came out. It's more acoustic oriented, but I think it's still a terrific record. I love these guys. And my number 1, I'm going with one of my favorite trios, the Aristocrats, Duck. Great
Oh,
album cover.
That's a 2024 album.
I believe it is. I hope
Damn
I'm
it.
not wrong.
Yep.
Damn it.
Yeah, you saw the tour, didn't you?
Yeah, but I
Again.
forgot what year it came out.
Very early in the year.
I
Oh,
love
I have it in here as 2023. I guess maybe my
I can
listing-
double check, but I believe, yeah, I got 2024 right on the back.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, all
early.
right. It came out like February.
I love these guys. I mean, Guthrie Govin's always been a favorite ever since I heard him, I think first with Steven Wilson. You've got Marco Miniman, Brian Beller, bass player, just absolutely terrific. And I think a lot of people who might think this is a band that's all show, I don't know. I think the songs on this are definitely, they stick with in my brain anyway. I don't think it's a shred fest. I think they're just terrific tunes. And it's very heavy. It's a rock oriented album for me. I mean, they're great players. It's intricate, but I wouldn't put this fusion wise. I would put this definitely in the rock category. So I'm going with the Aristocrats, Duck at number 1.
That's a good choice, Eric. I had it in as 23 for some reason. That would have been on my top 3.
I'll just check resources online 2024.
Yeah,
Thank you, Stephen.
it's a good
Yeah,
one.
February.
Could be my favorite from them, I think. Or-
I agree.
Same here.
I agree.
All right. Let's go to Chicago. George, what do you got?
In general, I don't think this is a great year. I think it's a lot of 4s and 4.5s, and I don't have a 5 this year, but there are a few things that battled their way to the top for me. First, DGM, Endless. This is an Italian quintet. Previously more of a melodic power prog band. This time they do a kind of an about face. They add all this retro instrumentation. You got flutes, you got violins, and they sucked all the power metal out. The drummer used to overdo double bass, and there is no double bass on this entire album. So it's like you'd be surprised how much that changes things. And for the better for me. There's a couple songs on here that I think are classics. So that made it to my number three. My number two, like my Scottish brother said, Whom Gods Destroy, Insanium. That came out. Did you say May? I thought it was March, but I don't know. It was one of the early ones.
It was early.
Yeah, the lineup's unbeatable. Um, and like Steven said, it could have gotten shreddy. It could have been like a jizz fest, but it's not that. It's about songs. The song "The Decision" is my favorite song. I think Dino turns in a really good performance on that one. There's a couple songs he goes a little Phil Anselmo for me, but that's probably maybe what kept it out of my number one. But I can only imagine that the follow-up is going to be even better than this. So I'm looking forward to that. My number one is Gilligan's Horse, Charcoal Grace. Um, Not even their best album, but taking advantage of a kind of a soft year, and it's another quality release from them. As Ken will tell you, Jim Gray is probably the best singer in prog metal, maybe in prog in general. Uh, Fantastic singer. Sam Vallon, great guitar player. And this says something a lot of the other albums don't have. The songs don't reveal themselves very slowly at all. I mean, it was probably just 4 stars when I first got it, and it's inched up to 4.5 just because I keep finding new stuff to hear in these tunes. So that's my number one, Caligula's Horse.
And I will say that DGM is the first album I've heard by them. I really like it a lot.
You haven't heard the old
I
album?
never listened to any of the older stuff. No.
They were good albums.
Yeah,
They're
that's
just
what everybody says.
they were more
Someone.
prog power metal. They were good.
Yeah, I like this because this one isn't really power metal at all. And that's like, if all this stuff was like this, I'd be like, whoa, cool. But for everything I've heard is like, it's not like this. So I don't know, but I dig it a lot. All right, Ken, over to you.
All right, I'm gonna open up. Let's see if I do this correctly. My number three, Oddly. So my top three were very, very close. So I'm getting into like minutia when I differentiate them. Um, I fell in love with this album right away. To me, it's retro prog, but it's to me, I actually hear a lot of Renaissance in this album. Um, not not so much like the singer Adeline that she sounds like Annie or anything like that, but the just I don't know, thematically, it just reminds me.
There's a
Uh,
majestic quality to their music. I think that's
yeah,
kind of similar. Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's a beautiful album. I love the scope of it. Big songs. It's got big sound. Love the keyboard work. Karina Torre, she wrote all the material. There is a lot of flute on the album. And I think the only thing that stopped us from being number two or number one is that I want more guitar on this album. So the bass player plays guitar, but essentially he really only plays guitar towards the end of the album on one of the long tracks. I think it was on either Back in Time or Coexistence. I don't remember which one. Where he plays guitar and it's great, and it's like, why can't you do this throughout the album?
Yeah.
So I think they're hearing this a lot, and I would be surprised if the next album doesn't feature more guitar. I don't have any insight. I'm just saying if they're if they're acceptable to feedback, then that I think that's going to be the universal feedback. All right, let me kill Prezi.
Ken, did they have a Bandcamp page?
They do. You can hear the
Okay.
album. You can hear it on Bandcamp.
Okay, cool.
So number two, this was the shocker. And I mean, the album is phenomenal. If you're a Yes fan, you have to own this album. I mean, if you like John's vocals, Luis, I know this counts you out, but if but in terms of the songs, I mean, these guys, band geeks, these guys play their asses off. They're phenomenal musicians, and they just coaxed this shit out of John, and they made a great Yes album. So to me, this is the best thing since easily the best thing for me since going for the one. So I was I love it. I mean, the negatives, the obvious negative, the artwork blows. So it's gotten to the point where people are creating their own artwork and inserting it into the CD case. So it's pretty bad. The live album that's coming out has some nice artwork. I'm taking the approach that this artwork was intentional, that they wanted, John's daughter, I believe, created the art, and you know, uh, this is the only way I can wrap my head around it. That I've convinced myself of this, that they decided that they were going to make this artistic statement by making it all about the music and putting this intentionally horrible cover on it. That's the only way. That's the only way I can rationalize it.
I think they wanted to not associate it anything Yes related, I think is what they were trying to do.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of thing. Let's let the music stand on its own, and we'll just doesn't matter what the cover is. Let's just let's give the fans what they want. That's the thing.
Maybe John Anderson is just cheap. Let's not forget that.
John Anderson is cheap. I don't know.
Do you know?
But-
Do you know though? It's had more people talking about it
Yeah.
because it's got a bad cover.
That's right.
Probably had more people listen to it because
Hey.
it's got a bad cover, and then go, actually, that's really good because it is really good.
As we know, negativity sells, right? So it draws interest. So the only thing this was going to be my number one album. The only thing that stopped it is that I think I love the long pieces, but it drags a little bit. At some point in the album, it picks up again on. It's got the Once Upon a Dream 1634 long piece, so it picks up again for me. But before that, the songs were fine, but just in terms of the pacing of the album, it was just a little just slow the momentum of the album down. But all in all, John is 80 years old. He sounds fantastic, and these guys can play. And man, this is a great record. Just a great record.
Yeah, I think he's touring again in the spring.
Yeah. Well, so there are no wrong answers, but there are some answers that are more right than others. And this is the number one album of the year, Jupiter Fungus. This album pushes my buttons in a way that I haven't heard of an album in such a long time. Right away, as soon as I saw the artwork, I mean, I heard the tunes before I even saw the cover. But when I saw the cover just knocked me out. And it's as Can said and Chad said, too long. It's two guys where they brought in a bunch of ringers. Their influences are clearly rooted in the 70s. I'm interested in 70s. If you ever watch anything I ever talk about, my bias is towards 70s sounding prog as opposed to contemporary bands. I like a lot of contemporary bands, but I'm an old man. My roots are in the 70s. And these guys, they nail it. I mean, if you like, I mean, it's four long tracks. Underdog is almost just shy of 10 minutes. It puts me in like a Pete Barden's fever dream. I mean, it sounds like outtakes from Camel Mirage. Second track, Circles, 13 minutes long, a lot of flute, but not Andy Latimer flute, Ian Anderson flute. You get, and then there's sort of a shift on the second half of the album. You get a lot of Pink Floyd in there. I think Pete, you mentioned Animals, and I hear that. There are some vocals on the album. Vocals not their strong point. I don't find the vocals offensive. Guys, when you make the next album, please don't fuck up the vocals. Have better vocals. So the vocals are fine. They are what they are, and frankly, it's just not a lot of it. Not a point where it would detract from me. So the more I listen to this record, I love this record, and I think that this is going to be a future classic. I think this is an album. I think what we're hearing is the start of something that's going to be really big. I don't mean big like these guys are going to be playing arenas. I mean big like these guys have made a debut, and they're going to move on to doing something bigger and better, and hopefully carrying on. I think this is a great record. Jupiter Fungus, Garden Electric, my album of the year.
Very nice. All right. My number three is John Anderson and the Band Geeks. Basically, it's the best Yes album in quite a long time. And for, people who get upset when I say that and they're like, whoa, the last couple of Yes albums have been pretty good. Then maybe they have been pretty good. This is really good. It sounds to me like a true Yes album from like 1976, 77. That's what it sounds like to me. John sounds great. We all know the Band Geeks are great players. They come from other bands. They've done lots of prog covers and they're amazing musicians. And I think they have brought the best out in John and he has brought the best out in them. A lot of great songs on here. There's some great epics on here. Yeah, maybe the album is a little long, but there's really no bad songs on here. And there's some really great songs on here. I like it a lot. The production sounds great. My number three. My number two is Insanium from When Gods or Whom Gods Destroy. It's funny because I think when we found out that Sons of Apollo were basically going to be no more, which, I think once we knew that Mike went back to Dream Theater, that was going to be the case. I was kind of sad by that because I really like Sons of Apollo a lot. But then this came not that long afterwards, and we were all kind of like, well, okay now. No big deal, right? We move on. We got something a little bit similar, but a little bit different. I was just listening to this in the car a couple days back and thinking how because I hadn't heard it. I listened to it a lot when it first came out earlier in the year, and I hadn't listened to it in more recent, the last couple of months. So I wanted to kind of get it fresh once again and, make sure that it was worthy of being so high up on my list. And yeah, it's still really quite good. And I'm not sure if it was Stephen or George who mentioned it. It's like there's not a lot of like what people would call like prog metal wankery on here. It's like we know these guys can play, but they do it all within the arrangements of the songs. I mean, there's like amazing bass playing going on, and Bumblefoot is ripping away. The drumming is off the charts, and Derek is doing his thing. And I love Dino's vocals. I mean, he's just roaring up a storm throughout the whole thing, but it's not showy. They're all great songs. I mean, Over Again and Name of War. I mean, Hypernova, Crucifier, just great, great songs. And I think it is really, really good. And you guys both said it. I think the best is yet to come from these guys. So hopefully they will prove me correct on that. And my number one is Opeth. It takes everything I love from the last five albums of pure 70s prog, hard rock, and whatnot, and from Opeth, throws back in the growls, but it's not, and I think Lewis even mentioned it, it's not like Watershed Part Two or Blackwater Park Part Two. It's not. It's definitely the more adventurous, progressive-minded Opeth, but with a little added extreme metal thrown back in. But all the prog is still there. It's ridiculously arranged, like really, really well. And I've been very supportive of them throughout their career, no matter what they do. And when they decided they were going to move away from doing death metal, I was like, okay, I'm with you. And I've never looked back. But as Steven said, it's almost like now that it's back for this one album, you kind of realize how much you missed it. But what I love so much about this album, and really this band always, when you really think about it, is like they've always used his wonderful melodic vocals and the death metal vocals almost interchangeably and almost equally. So it's almost like having two different singers in the band. And I think that really works on this album. Again, it's a concept album. Bringing back the growls, help them tell the story because he's basically singing different parts and whatnot. I love it. I think the music is really, really challenging. I see a lot of people saying that, like, well, there's not a lot of real songs on it. It's like, well, there's not a lot of songs on like Thick as a Brick. There's not a lot of songs on like a Passion Play, right? Or Pleasant Shade of Gray. Any of these albums that are all one song. It's not that type of an album. So no, not going to be perfect song you can kind of pull out, right? But taken as a whole, I think it's wonderful. And I normally don't, and George knows this, I normally don't like when albums end on like a mellow note, but I think the last track on here which is the only one that's not part of the paragraphs, is gorgeous. And Frederick Ackeson's guitar solo is wonderful. What a way to end the album. So good. So that's my album of the year. Opeth, their brand new one, Last Will and Testament. There you have it. Anybody have any honorable mentions you want to rattle off quickly? Lewis, we'll go circle
I
back.
do. One of them is very self-serving, but I think I wanted to mention it, which is Rizoma by Luz Riada. That is the final album by that band, and I think it's made a lot of lists for people. And if people haven't heard it, they should try to jump on it, because once it's finished, there'll be no more. So if you haven't heard that and you're curious about it, instrumental, prog, world music, a little bit of jazzy, pseudo jazzy stuff, that's a great record. I'm very proud of it. And like I said, it's the final album by the band. Also, I really enjoyed Devin Townsend, a power nerd. To me, Devin Townsend can do no wrong. Even when he's goofy, I love him. And this album in particular, for people who know Devin Townsend, it kind of mixes elements of Accelerated Evolution and Terria to me. It's a really, really good record. Features Mike Keneally on keyboards and Darby on drums. That guy's a fucking monster. So I love that record. Odd Leaf was mentioned, but I think it bears repeating. Odd Leaf. I always complain that records are, I don't like happy music. Happy music makes me miserable, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that this music is not this, to me, to my ears. It doesn't feel like manufactured saccharine bullshit. It just feels like it's genuinely hopeful, and there's a lot of youth in it. And I was very surprised by how much I like that record. So I'm very glad that you guys picked it, because I think it's not in my top three, because the other three are just so much more my thing. But I find that record to be incredible. And that's it. I mean, I could talk about Whiteout, but we'll talk about that another time. I'm very proud of that record. I know it's very self-serving, but I don't care. I think it's good stuff. And I really hope that more people hear it. And there's been so many, Whom Gods Destroy, all the ones that have been mentioned are great records. So at least I'm happy to know that everybody has good taste. And I will say that John Anderson record is better than anything Yes has put out in the last, I don't know how long. There it is. That's a good record, people. And its message becomes more meaningful the closer we get to January. So that's it for me.
I love how no matter what album somebody mentioned, Pete just happens to have it at his fingertips.
I love that. Yeah.
If you knew how many hundreds of albums are on top of my desk right now, you
I can believe it.
you'd be
It's funny.
horrified.
You pull something out and then you just reach over and you're like,
It's here. I'm like, I just got to find it. Where is it? I know it's here somewhere. All right, Cans, you got any left?
Yeah, I got a few here. Vima, Viasti Melanio. This is a Finnish prog band. Great flute playing. Check it out. New one from Celeste. I would never even attempt to pronounce the name of this album, though this could be my number one for artwork. This is kind of a departure for them. This is not like their last album. A lot more discrete songs on here, less long concept albums type shit, but fantastic flute playing and saxophone playing.
I think there's a theme with your Rex.
Yeah, I came upon this theme by accident, but it's the shit, it's true. Here, this is a Sound Heart by a band called Jaubi or Jawbi. They are kind of the Pakistani Snarky Puppy. They're a collective of musicians. They do jazz music, they do world music. This is a very jazzy release, which features some ass-kicking flute playing. And the new Aurora Clara, which is a flute festival. You like flute? Get this fucking thing. So, fantastic album. I think a lot of people, and I don't think it's their best, but it came out this year and it is very, very good. So
It's the year of the flute for you, Cans.
Oh yeah,
2024.
I'm a flute freak now, I guess.
Flute
It's just
Fest. There's definitely an idea there. Flute Fest.
flute
Flute
fest.
Fest.
It is. It's a fiesta.
That Jalby album is phenomenal.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
I really like that Aurora Clara too, and I have a feeling we're going to be talking about that a little bit on the next Four Fusion Friday episode.
The problem with Aurora Clara is they came out of the box with two albums that were exactly what people wanted. And then they decided to deviate and add that acoustic element. And they just haven't found that balance yet, you know?
I didn't
I think
understand
there's
the
a good
remake.
amount of the fire on this new one, though.
I do too.
Yeah.
I
I
think
didn't
you
understand the
really got to
remake
go
they put
back
on.
and listen to it because I've
No,
been listening to it a lot, and I think it holds up to the others.
I always feel like for the last two albums, I felt like they just needed that one more heavy tune to just give a little bit more balance. But that's a good album.
We'll go next. Anthony, you got any left?
Yeah, the one yeah, Tony Levins, Bring It Down to the Bass. A lot of guest stars, a lot of kick-ass bass playing, a couple tracks with his monologues over, which I think is usually pretty cool from him. So that'd be my honorable mention of this year. And George said I'm not allowed to use Jerry Cantrell as my honorable mention. So, but I do want to say that was a fantastic record. Yes, very good.
There you go. There you go.
We should play Stump Pete next time
I
and
got them
see
all, man. I got
pick
them
some
all.
stuff he doesn't have.
Hunt the Pardo.
There you go.
Steven, got any honorables?
I do, yes. I've got the new Frost album. This is Life in the Wires, which I really like. It's getting classed as a masterpiece in a lot of places. I think that's stretching it a little bit. It's really good. It's Frost doing what they do. It's a 2 CD album. It probably fits on one, but I think it works for the concept for it to be on two. The downside for me is that the real fire's on the second disc, in my humble opinion. So when I first heard the album, I kind of thought, yeah, it's solid. The more I get to know it, the more I'm playing the latter half of it. This is Voidkind by June, DVNE. Don't do that, people. Okay, just
Yeah,
don't.
just call it Dune already. Yeah, spell it that way. I know.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not
Great
Divine.
album,
But anyway, I digress. They're from Edinburgh, but that's not why I've chosen it. I've chosen it because it's really good. It's wow, what is it? It's progressive rock, it's psych, it's post rock, it's death metal, it's all of those things all together. It's really cleverly constructed. This is an album, and you should listen to it from start to finish. The whole thing flows and it kind of refers back to itself. Really clever. Third album, I haven't heard the first two, but this is great, and it does seem to be picking up some traction for them, which is really good. And the last one I've got is a band called Harpazo with The Crucible. This is Mark Sentani and Gary Verkamp from Shadow Gallery. And it's one of these all-star cast things. And whenever I hear that, I go, because usually they're pretty ropey. This is not. This is really good. DC Cooper from Royal Hunt. You've got Les Carlson from Bloodgood. Ray Parra. You've got Bruce Sa from Angra. Mark Zonder is on here. And it's another concept album. Seems to be a year of concept albums for me. And it's just really strong progressive metal. It's quite technical, but it's more song-based again, which is a theme for me. And it's really good. Came out of nowhere for me. I really like this. This is Harpazo with The Crucible.
Cool. All right, over to Chad.
All right, a little bit of a cheat. Duck has got to be one of my honorable mentions because I missed it on my top three. The next one I thought maybe it would show up in Kansas list, but it doesn't have any flute. And that would be the Cause of Sui album from The Source. Really great album. Danish psych prog band, first album in 4 years. They're seventh overall. A lot of cool deep bass grooves, fuzz laden guitar. Yeah, there it is. And ends with a 24-minute epic, which is great, called Visions of a New Horizon. I found on the site there's the description is from groovy zamrock and electric jazz to floating post-rock Sabbath riffage and hypnotic cosmish or krautrock. So check them out if you don't know them. Another latecomer. Ken popped this up to us about 2 weeks ago. Congulus. The album's called Goçebe. I had to look that up because it's Turkish. It's a trio from Istanbul. Really cool artwork. Ken will show the LP there. It only comes on LP or digital. Um, really like heavy riff-based instrumental prog. Not metallic, but heavy. There's a little chunk to it. Some Turkish flavor, that Anatolian kind of thing here and there. They almost seem like some of the songs seemed like they could put vocals on them, but they didn't, and I'm okay with that. It's kind of just cool to crunch along with some good riffage. Um, and I can't pronounce any of the song titles, so I'm not going to give you any favorites. And my last one, which kind of snuck up on me, I liked the previous one a lot. When I first heard this one, I was like, it's okay. But it really snuck up on me recently, and that's Isobar 4. 3 was great. 4 has really snuck up on me. These guys, 3 of them are from San Jose. The fourth member is Matthias Olsson, our drummer buddy from Anglo Garden and so many other projects. Um, it's great, solid modern prog without being over polished, paint by numbers, any of that. Really keeps you on your toes. They do a lot of twists and turns, kind of quirky. The album starts out with a song called Rational Anthem, which is awesome. A couple other favorites are Startling Over and Strangling Dandelions. So if you haven't heard the new Isobar, check it out. Great album.
Yeah, it is quite good. Eric.
Right, Chad, I'm going to reciprocate with you. You use the Aristocrats. I'm going to go with Kenso as an honorable mention. Old Warrior Shook the Sun. I did want to mention, since we all I think most of us really enjoyed Squeaky Feet last year, I'm going to go back to the jam band. And King Llama has really grown on me. And I think that's an area where we could really explore. There's a lot of prog going on in that jam band scene. And I'm going to cheat, but I have to say this because this blew my mind. The Chicago Live record from 1971 that came out. And Pete, I know you mentioned the Carnegie Hall, but I mean, that's just absolute fire. Not that the Carnegie Hall isn't, but what a great live band. Love it. So I've listened to that constantly since it came out.
I would agree. I love it too. There's a lot of great Chicago live recordings from that era, and
Yes.
every one of them is great. So yeah. Cool. George.
Sunburst, Manifesto, band from Norway, ripping guitar player, and a singer that legitimately sounds like Roy Khan. He's a Roy Khan's twin. It's incredible how much he sounds like him, and that's a very, very good thing. Good songs throughout, much better than their debut. Kenzo, An Old Warrior Shook the Sun. Kenzo, as usual, even though they took 10 years off, you'd never be able to tell. Van and Plas, the Empyrean long lost equation, whatever it is. Van and Plas, I mean, super well produced, well played. It's a little comfort foody, a little been there, heard it, but if you like that, you got to get it. I mean, it hits all the right spots. And the last one is a debut from a Greek trio called Royal Time Machine. Guitar, bass, and drums. The drummer is pretty well known in technical death metal scene. He was in Nile. A fusion bass player and guitar player. He used to play with Scott Stapp of all things. A little bit shreddy, but still very song based. And again, another band with a good future coming up. So, Royal Time Machine.
George, that's digital only?
Yeah, it's CDR. They sell a CDR.
Cool. Ken.
All right. Elephant Nine, Mythical River. This is their most recent studio album. Stale Storlokin, the keyboard player. He's kind of broadened his palette a little bit. He's added Mellotron, synthesizer. It's not quite as focused on organ. So it's a beautiful record. It does have a lot of good energy, a lot of firepower, but overall, it's kind of a little more refined than the earlier albums. So great one. I'll quickly jump into Prezi Land. and open up what I got here. Okay, open. Come on, open sesame. We got Tom Penguin, self-titled. Tom Penguin, French multi-instrumentalist. If you like Hatfield in the North and National Health, I mean, this is the album. I hate to say it. I mean, it's like the album was written with tracing paper, but he does it really, really, really well. I mean, you listen to this, and there are parts where it's just like listening to Hatfield and North and National Health. So he plays like all the instruments. I think he brought in a drummer. Next, I have Steve Hackett, The Circus and the Night Whale. I don't know if I'm in the minority, the artwork blows, but I think this is a really great album. I love Steve's playing. He's my favorite guitarist, and there's a lot of heavy bits to this. I think it's a great record. So, again, all things considered, I'm very, very happy with that. And then I'm just going to throw out, let me just close out this bloody thing. I hate this so far. And a couple things that didn't make it only because they're more of an archival thing. Pete, I know you love this, the Elephant Nine, Catching Fire, Elephant Nine with Terry Ripdahl. It's live and it's from 2017. So I'm thinking in terms of an archival album and a purely archival reissue, and an absolutely phenomenal album. I think Chris will help me on this one. Dr. Tree. So, band was from New Zealand, made one album, a fusion album from 1976. You like Return to Forever? This is it. It's beautifully done. Includes an unreleased album's worth of material. But that was great. Just other stuff I'll just mention that I thought was really good. I thought the new Beardfish album was really good this year, really solid. I enjoyed the new Semiramis. Doesn't sound at all like Semiramis, but it sounds really good Italian prog. I thought the new Monkey 3 was great if you're into heavy space rock. Excellent. I had Celeste on my list, the one that Chris mentioned. The rebirth of the Spanish band Attila Encarnacio, band from the 70s. Again, doesn't necessarily sound like Attila, but man, it's great 70s influenced prog rock. I thought that Black Elephant album, The Fall of the Gods, killer. I had Aurora Clara on my list, and that's what I had. I mean, there was a lot. There was actually 2024 was a pretty good year, and Chad mentioned Isobar. I had that on my list, but you start chopping away after a while. So that's what it.
Elephant 9, Monkey 3, Armadillo 79.
Yeah. Yes, that Armadillo
Albums and numbers.
Yeah, that Armadillo 79. Don't discount it.
It's good. It's really good. It's got a lot of flute.
Very good.
And that Dr. Tree didn't come out on disc, only on LP, or
It came out on CD many years ago, and it's out of print, and the CD itself is going for money.
oh,
But
okay.
yeah, so they did a stunning job. The artwork, the mastering. They went to the original tapes. It was yeah, it was done at Abbey Road. The mastering was done at Abbey Road. Press it optimal. They only made 600 copies. 300 copies went to Europe. 300 copies stayed in New Zealand, and the unreleased tracks are great too.
Yeah, I would agree. It was a good year. I'm trying to find stuff that hasn't already been mentioned here that I have on my list. And I can't find it. It should be right here, but so it's one I can't find today. But the new one from Tusmork, Norwegian prog band. The new one is called Dawn of Eberron. I like that quite a bit. Maybe not as much as their last one, but it's still really, really good. Prog metal, Terra Maze, Eli, A Wonderful Fall from Grace. There's another really good one. I mean, these guys are great. Just great vocals, catchy hooks, and amazing playing. Really tight. Love that a lot. And then my last one that I'll mention today is the return of the Swedish Proggers Ritual. And it's the story of Mr. Bog, Part 1. It's got nice folk elements in there, some symphonic prog, good quirky arrangements. Sometimes it's heavy, sometimes it's light. Really good. Great vocals, a lot of great instrumentation. Dug that one a lot this year. So yeah, that's what I got. So for everybody watching, list some of your favorite releases of the year down in the comments below. And we want to wish you all a happy and healthy Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year, all that sort of stuff from all of us at In the Prog Seat. But make sure you stay healthy. Don't get caught with the flu like I did. Whatever you do, not the way you want to spend the holidays, but it is what it is. So, but we'll see you next year in 2025 where we're going to do a fun episode at the beginning of the year, kind of play on something we do on Monsters Den occasionally. Is we're going to talk about some of the new things we've acquired that are new to us over the holiday break, whether it be like a brand new release or just something old that's new to us, or a reissue of something cool that we've been checking out. So that sort of thing will be kind of a fun little episode. So look for that in early 2025 and visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together. All
All the
the
damn
damn time. For Louis Nasser, Chris Canzaneri, Anthony Ferraro, Stephen Reed, Chad Hutchinson, Eric Porter, George Lemay, and Ken Golden. I am Pete Pardo. Enjoy, everybody. Happy holidays.
Cheers.